Hey, it's Brittany with your favorite SaaS SEO agency, LinkFlow, and today I'm going to walk you through all of the steps that I would take if I were to do a competitive analysis for your website here at LinkFlow. Okay, so we're mainly going to be working in Ahrefs today. I've got it pulled up. And what we're going to do is I'm going to look at your website compared to 3 competitors which you've provided me or we've looked up together to pick. So we're going to look at how you competitively stack up in terms of your backlink profiles, your website structure and how you're producing content, and of course your keyword rankings. So we're going to start with the really straightforward stuff and dive in with your backlink profiles. So I've got LinkFlow.AI pulled up, and we're going to start by just looking at the number of referring domains. Okay, so I would take this number and I'd record it along with the referring domains for the 3 competitors. So we start out by looking at the referring domains for your website along with your 3 competitors. And then we want to know what percentage of those referring domains are dofollow. And then we'll do some math here. We would be charting all of this in a spreadsheet that we would then walk you through to show you the results. But for now, I'm just showing you kind of the steps I'm going to take and why I care about looking at them. So a quick refresher that a referring domain is a backlinking term. So you've got backlinks and you have referring domains. A backlink is a link on someone else's website to yours, and a referring domain is the website that is linking to yours. So you can have an infinite number of backlinks on a single referring domain. We care about referring domains because that's what's passing link equity in Google's eyes. So when we build links at LinkFlow, we only build to new referring domains. All right, background info settled. So that's why we care about it. And then dofollow. Again, a no-follow link doesn't send equity, so we really only care about dofollow links. We want to see that your website has a high percentage of dofollow referring domains. Okay, so, and then we would compare that to someone else's. So I think we have like something like 1,100 here, so our percentage of dofollow links is very high. If we compare that to one of our competitors, let's see what theirs looks like. I'm expecting a little bit lower, still pretty high. So like I think the average of what I see is in the 70-ish% range, but it does vary industry to industry. Yeah, like this one I think was pretty drastic, right? It was half. So 500 domains and only 276 are dofollow. So that is more like what I'd be expecting to see for anyone who has never worked with a link building agency before. If you're listening well, then you'll be able to tell like why that matters when we do competitive research, because I basically just said I can tell if one of your competitors is using a link building agency or at least has a defined link building strategy. If most of their referring domains are dofollow, and then some other checks that we're going to find out in a second, then that tells me they're doing something here, which means that you're going to need to be putting some of your marketing budget in that direction so that you can be more competitive with them. Okay, the next thing we're going to look at is the domain rating sort of spread. So out of all of the dofollow domains from MadX Digital, we want to know how many of them are a DR of 30 or less. So basically websites that aren't really sending much SEO value to your website. So I think this said 200 and something, so it's like nearly half are 30 or below DR. That's pretty average. I would say across every business I've ever looked at and all of their competitors, 9 times out of 10, 50 to 60% of their links are from DR 30 and below websites, that's fine. We do have outliers. Sometimes it's like 90% and sometimes it's like 20%. So now we're going to look at sort of like a mid-range, like, you know, they're sending some equity, but it's not amazing. So 31 to 50, that's only 46 of their domains. That's like maybe 20%. So not very many. And then finally, a 51 plus. Okay, so almost almost half, are 51 plus, which that means that like they're almost even split between domains that are providing very little value and domains that are providing like a significant amount of value. If I were to do this on a LinkFlow client, we would see kind of a different spread of numbers, because when we build links, we build them at an average of 50 plus. So your percentage of links coming from higher authority websites will be much higher. We're trying to reduce that 60% of not so good and move your spread up, so that, yeah, you just have a better, stronger link building profile. And again, I can tell if someone's doing something in the link building realm if they're if they, for instance, have like 70% of all of their backlinks are from really high DR sites. That's another signal. Okay. There's a few other things we look at when we're looking at backlink profiles. Like we can look at anchor text spread and see if, you know, your competitors are getting a lot of keyword-rich anchor text, or if it's mostly branded, etc. There's a whole bunch more we can do, but this is like the starting point of, okay, I have a solid grasp of your competitor backlink profiles and yours as well. Okay, so moving on to sort of like content structure, we're going to actually look at your competitor websites for this. So I've got these three SEO agencies to look at, and I'm going to be taking a look at like how have they built their navigation, and then how are they grouping their content together? Are they using content clustering, etc. So this navigation is really simple, which is good, and it's straightforward. It's very clear, and they're kind of using keywords as their labels here. That is what we would recommend if we were to sort of judge your navigation. Keywords are always good, and using terminology that people frequently use is nice. It's basically for clarity. It helps both people and Google. So that's like really clean and simple. It makes sense. This is a bit overwhelming, I would say. Yeah, there's a lot happening here, and I think there's a lot of repetition. It's hard to tell with all of the icons and everything, but it's still like fairly straightforward. I just think it's kind of a mess. So like the reason I care is that I wouldn't guide someone in this direction if they had like a much cleaner, easier to look at and read navigation. Let's see what this last one is doing. Again, this is kind of overwhelming, but at least they've sort of categorized things. So people can self-select if they are seed funded or if they're public and enterprise. They can also self-select if they're B2C or B2B or B2C. And then in terms of services, like you've got the overarching SEO, pay-per-click, and web design, and then sort of like individual channels and tactics beneath those. So like this is good. If you had a really complicated product and you really needed to like differentiate like that, then I would use this as a good model for what to do. I probably wouldn't do the same colors and icons and stuff, but it is fun to look at. Okay, so that's just like to get my bearings, like how sophisticated and 2024 is this company. Now let's look at how they've structured blogs. Okay, blog. We will come back to this one. They have an interesting method that works really well for them. So this is your standard, blog homepage template. And I like that they have categories and that the categories are essentially keywords. That's very useful. I want to know if they have dates on their blog. Okay, they do. So this was just released like last week. And their blog template is really good. It's fairly clean. It's not like obnoxiously, there's not a ton in the sidebars, which is good. We want to like include all necessary blog elements without being overwhelming. And then I also love that they're collecting, they're trying CTAs in some creative spaces. I don't see this at the top super often. This is really common. I almost always see a sidebar CTA. And then I'm assuming they have something at the bottom. Yep. Wow, that's big. So they are really pushing their CRO, which is not what we're looking at right now, but I will show you how we do CRO analysis at LinkFlow at another video. Okay. So something that I cared about in here was the date. I wanted to know how frequently they're publishing content, or at least updating. Oops. Okay, so the next one is the 5th of July, and then we have like a 3-month, 4-month gap. So that's interesting. Let's see if that sort of maintains. Okay, yeah, so it looks like they do a bunch of their content and then publish it all at once, instead of having like a consistent publishing schedule, which I always recommend consistency over bulk. They look like they're doing something really similar. Let's see. Okay, no, this is a lot more spread out. I can't tell how much content they have because it's all, you can't view like everything all at once. It looks like you can really only view by like types. So SEO for SaaS, you'd have to go into all and then see them all. Okay, yeah. So it's sort of a complicated system, but it's not like anyone actually visits these pages for the most part, except for maybe your customers. The next thing I want to look at for both of these people is like, how are they clustering their content? So I would do that in a couple of different ways. Sometimes it's really visually obvious, and here is a perfect example. So on this website, you don't have like a blog homepage. Each cluster has its own blog homepage, and then the URL structure matches. So it's /SaaS SEO and then /enterprise SaaS SEO. So that's making it extremely clear to Google that this is part of the SaaS SEO cluster, and those two ideas are connected. And then they've done that with the entirety of their content that they consider SaaS SEO. This is really impressive stuff. Like, definitely would recommend to do this if you have the power over your URLs and you're sort of starting a blog from scratch. But it's not, it's not the end all be all. You can still cluster content perfectly well without putting it into your URL structure. Okay, so that's one way to do it. And then another way is obviously internal linking. I'm not going to open up Screaming Frog and show you how I can visually find that out and see if they're internally linking properly, but it's something we can do. And if we feel like you're in a space with really impressive competitors on the content side, that's something we might look into and see, like, okay, how steep is this competition, and are there clusters where you should start because they don't have a lot of content, etc. So we can dig in deeper there when we're actually working together. Okay, the last thing we want to do is look at keywords and top pages. So we're going to switch all of these to pages. And I'm going to do a couple of things here. So I usually break this into like a 3-step process. But the way that all of these agencies have done their URLs makes it a little more complicated, because I can't sort of sort out what's a blog versus what isn't a blog. Especially on this people, because like it's all, I'd have to figure out every single cluster they have and then say yay or nay on those clusters. But in general, I use some tools in here to look at only blog content, for instance, or only commercial pages. And then I kind of try to see, okay, which commercial pages and which blogs are bringing them traffic, and do those keywords, are they relevant, and or are they bottom of the funnel? Like, what is the spread of their awareness content versus their purchase intent content? And then sometimes, like, it's really, not useful at all. So like quality blogger outreach is technically something that they have as a service, but it's not really related to who they are as a SaaS SEO agency. So it's like a little, okay, here we go. Resume is a totally irrelevant keyword. I don't think that that's something that they're like depending on for traffic. And sometimes you see websites where 90% of the keywords are as relevant as this one. So if you have a competitor where it's all sort of junk keywords, then I would tell you, great, you have a leg up. You're going to totally slay them in the SERPs. Or in this case, you have a competitor that's got really good keywords. So link building services, content creation services, SaaS content marketing agency. Those are great. And they're ranking in the like first half of the top page. So this is a competitor that we have to pay a lot of attention to and work really hard to overtake. So I didn't split this up into blog versus commercial, but I would if I was looking at an actual client's website and competitors' websites, just because I like to think of those as separate campaigns, and I might have different advice based on the type of content it is. Cool. So that's like the overarching of how I look at top pages. And then we have one more thing we're going to do. And this is just a nice check to see sort of like how much keyword potential is still out there that you haven't tapped whatsoever. So LinkFlow, Scale, and MedX. And I don't see the one I want. So we'll just copy it over from their actual, okay. There. Great, show keyword opportunities. So, I don't know why it's pulling for Peru. I would like the United States, please. And so this generates a bunch of information and data, and it does a few things automatically. So it's showing us anytime one of the competitors that I listed has a keyword that is ranking on page 1 and we don't rank at all. That's fine, but I tend to find that that shows me a bunch of branded terms for these competitors, especially when we're in the SaaS SEO space, because there's just like a lot of branded search happening out there. So I like to change this up and change it to no position or like 50 plus. And I want to see 2 competitors up to spot 15. Because I think that's going to show me a lot more of like, these are the keywords everyone is going after, and we're not ranking well at all. Like anything higher than a 50, I don't consider like you're doing well, and you probably need to totally redo the content that's ranking for it, or create new content that's more targeted. So yeah, SaaS marketing agency, we don't rank for, but Simple Tiger is 2 and Scale is 7. That is something that we need to like really work on. However, we're not actually a marketing agency, we're an SEO agency. So this isn't like super relevant. So I would actually go through this list and pick out, make sure that there's like a good spread of actually important and targetable keywords that I think you could rank for. And then I'll screenshot it and show you sort of, here's your search opportunity that I'm seeing at first glance. And then of course we would, we use some of this background research to do your keyword mapping as well. So all of the keyword research we do is based on this sort of data analysis, plus some more things that I'm not going to get into today because that's a whole other video. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. You can kind of see behind the curtain and how we at LinkFlow are going to figure out your competitive landscape for you. Thanks so much and have a great day.